Suspended between the savageness of the warp and the nightmares of open void, there is a region of space that has been all but forgotten by the Imperium that holds it. It is a place that once enjoyed the luxuries of prosperity brought about by the security of powerful neighbours. Yet in the wake of the Great Rift, warp storms have torn through the stars, and this prosperous hub of oligarchs, aristocrats and merchant houses that once believed itself an oasis in the deep, where the fires of war could not drown the stars in ruin, has now found itself on the verge of that very annihilation. Hello everyone and welcome to my little corner, and a region of the galaxy that houses the fanfiction and lore that I create for my own miniatures of the 41st millennium. If you enjoy this, then please like, subscribe and leave a comment below letting me know your world building ideas as we look into an overview of this once virulent haven in the void, the sector known as EO. Located to the extreme south of the galactic plane and now largely shrouded by warp rift, EO was first officially charted in the early years of the 34th millennium. However, cross-referencing information will reveal that its location was first in fact discovered during the waning years of the Great Crusade, at a time of rapid imperial expansion and optimism for humanity. It will be logged by distant scout ships as merely numerals on a map and noted as containing at least one human population, but with no immediate strategic value noticed at the time, the region would be all but abandoned during the heresy, as efforts were forced to focus elsewhere. Then, at some point during the conflict's final years, the area would, for an unknown reason, be designated with a rare and almost unheard of edict known as an Imperial Yield Order by the highest levels of terror. It would then seemingly vanish into obscurity, quickly becoming a forgotten notation in the dusty annals of the Administratum in the wake of the heresy's destruction and the subsequent Age of Strife. That was until its rediscovery in M34. These Imperial explorers would be directed to a feudal world of green rolling hills and untamed forests, torn apart by a civil war that had been going on for generations. Upon contact, it was discovered that one side were more than eager to embrace Imperial compliance and quickly allied themselves with the newcomers. The others, obstinate and resistant, were wiped out. Finding no corruption within the population, the world was soon unified under the royal house of Sindra, and its immediate surrounding areas were quickly redesignated for Imperial expanse. System after system was claimed, with a curious number already seemingly half-suited to colonization. The expanse rapidly yielded surprising bounty as dozens of worlds were tamed and in time developed. Lush agri-worlds, mineral-rich quarry planets, and eventually opulent hive cities. The region formerly designated EO would go by this title for much of this time until it was officially shortened at its founding as an Imperial sector and the rulership of its first governor towards the middle of M34. The EO expanse flourished, supplying regiments and resources for some of the Imperium's greatest conflicts, such as the War of the Beast, that began almost 2 millennia before the EO's founding, yet its effects were still felt throughout the galaxy. EO's banners would take up arms against the Orc hordes and fight in many conflicts towards the end of M34, with most of these wars taking the regiments beyond the sector's borders, yet it would seem almost inevitable that the Greenskins would eventually find the sector, and find it they did. Towards the start of M35, a powerful Orc horde hit the eastern fringes of the sector, but a valiant defence by EO's people would see them vanquished and fleeing back into the void. This conflict brought EO the official patronage of a newly assigned Adeptus Astartes chapter, the Obsidian Kings. Their fortress monastery known as the Citadel was constructed in the rings of a gas giant whose system stood alone in the void above the eastern subsector. M35 would also bring the Nova Terra Interregnum. Geographically distant from Segmentum Solar, EO maintained loyalty to the True Imperium throughout the conflict. Records show limited but symbolic participation in supporting the High Lords of Terra, including the dispatch of Honor Guard contingents and logistical aid to loyalist fronts. Several high-ranking ecclesiastical envoys and scribes from the sector were also lost in the bureaucratical purges of the era, remembered now as martyrs of faith within the sector. Though the constant demand for soldiers and materials by the Imperium slowed the internal expansion, the sector prospered overall. Its peace was secured by powerful neighbouring systems and cunning political minds. In time, it gained a reputation as being structured, loyal, and though small at the time, a rising economical power. The 36th millennium, in the wake of the Nova Terra Interregnum, brought about a dramatic shift as a branch of the Adeptus Sororitas established presence within EO, recruiting from the highly religious world of Pale and stationing themselves across Shrine and Paradise worlds across the sector. Naming themselves the Order of the Lilac Rose, their presence ushered in a period of zealous unity and reinforced EO's piety. However, peace would not last, and repeated orc incursions were repelled to the galactic east. Not only that, but M37 would bring the beginning of the Eldari and the Drukhari raids. Though small, they caught the defenders off guard, their patterns strange and often precise. Despite efforts, the Astartes' attention was increasingly pulled to greater threats elsewhere in the galaxy, such as the 7th Black Crusade, the Caradon campaigns, and the War for the False Primarch. But whilst these conflicts drew manpower and attention, they didn't threaten the true heart of the sector, and these years also brought prosperity. Mines and quarries prospered, trade routes flourished, and in turn, EO's noble aristocracy basked in the riches and security their neighbours provided. She would begin to grow into a hotbed of merchant activity and a powerhouse of wealth in the Imperium. The economy boomed, artisan guilds grew rich, elitist tourism drove wealth at an astonishing rate as pleasure worlds celebrated sports and entertainment, shrine worlds sang with hymns, and EO began to enter a golden age almost unheard of since the days of the Great Crusade. By the 41st millennium, EO had expanded to include 5 major subsectors, each one including a myriad of different systems, planets, and areas of interest. At its core, the Cosmopolis, a vast region known largely for its hive and industrial world. It is the beating heart of the sector. Many people who leave these hive worlds go on to live lives on other planets within the sector's borders, working on the agri-worlds or serving in the machines of industry. A few notable worlds include Syndra Mundi, the sector's business, financial and economical capital, home to the most wealthy of EO's aristocracy. The world of Chariot, famous for its sporting events, music and nightlife, not to mention its narcotin-laden underworld of gangs and hyper-violence. The propaganda world of Miranda, known for its cathedral-sized printing presses worshipped by the planet's populace. Then there is the storm world of Trident and the fortress world of Eterna Majoris. To the east is the Pyranthos Vale, a series of open star clusters known for its mining, manufacturing and quarry operations. Worlds such as Farouk, Magna 5 and Yellow 7 providing valuable resources sought after by not only EO but the wider Imperium. To the west is the Rosa Imperialis, a region that exists in the shadow of a giant nebula that spans the subsector's length and bathes many of its worlds in a beautiful purple glow. This region includes planets such as the Paradise world of Harmony, an aristocratic tourist hotspot for those with the wealth and privilege to see it, as well as the elite burial world of Nero Tertius that houses many elite and military leaders' remains, vigilantly watched over by the Sisters of the Order of the Lilac Rose, hailing from the highly religious world of Pale. Arguably the most famous and almost certainly in the eyes of the Imperium the most valuable subsector is the Laurel Groves, containing a series of agri-worlds. These worlds are the life force of the region, not only providing for EO itself, but providing many other sectors with their produce. From meats to wines, grains to caffeines, over history, many of EO's elite have grown fat off the luxury of good foods produced in this subsector. Finally, there is Blackwater, a group of loosely organised systems on the very southern edge of the galaxy, clinging onto the celestial verge where the Milky Way meets open void. These worlds are few and far between, and interesting locations include Logos, a saltwater world used for high industrial fishing and water exportation, the now abandoned hive world of Damnation, and of course, the planet that gives the subsector its name, the Forge world of Blackwater itself. But while fate may have looked kindly on the region in the past, times have changed. In the aftermath of Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade, the Great Rift and the sundering of the skies, EO, once opulent and proud, now cries out under the weight of the warp storm. Prosperity failing, many neighbours gone, the region has now become a sanctuary for rogues, renegades and pirates, fleeing the horrors of open space or the accusing eye of the wider Imperium. The great scar that hangs above the region like a twisting spectre of the night threatens to devour the heavens, having already swallowed entire systems, entire sectors and trade routes along with the sector's guardian angels in its sudden expansion. The storm now leaves even the light of the Astronomicon naught but a flicker in the darkness and the horror of the warp on the region's doorstep. Trade has crawled to a trickle, the sororitas are spread thin, tithes stack like unpaid debts in the halls of the Administratum, and panic simmers beneath the surface. Xenos pushing its borders as orc warbands once again gather beyond the Pyranthos Vale to the galactic east, larger and more cunning than before. Eldari and Drukhari strike surgically as if following some ancient design, and Tyranid bioships bloom in the southwest, devouring planets and leaving them dead and barren husks. And if that wasn't enough, if reports are to be believed, then Kroot mercenaries have been spotted in the area, some bearing Tau and even Votan the sigils. EO finds herself threatened from inside and out by heretics, mutants and traitors alike, but worse yet, few within the sector even know that Rabruti Gilliman or the Lion has returned. EO feels truly alone. While war rages on in other parts of the galaxy and the Imperium's focus is elsewhere, EO has for the most part been pushed to the back of the mind or believed swallowed by the storm that obscures it. Yet the sector holds out, and hope does remain. Vital trade lanes around the warp have been located, allowing for supplies, aid and resources to trickle through. Sisters of the Order of the Lilac Rose continue to keep the peace, and the sector's regiments, now hardened by relentless conflict, hold back the Greenstone hordes. On top of this, a mysterious force appears to be keeping the Tyranids largely at bay for now and disrupting their hive mind, making them easier to destroy when located. The tale of EO may be one of a spark in the darkness, that shonest most bright in the bleakest of shadows, its mysteries buried beneath ash, gold and secret histories long forgotten. But that tale has yet to come to an end, that spark has yet to die out, and the sector's fate has yet to be written into the stars. That is all for this video, guys, but that is not to say that is the end of our tale. As I just said, this sector has many more mysteries and secrets to uncover, and in time, many more worlds, forces and factions to dive into. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll be back in the next one. See you later.